Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. More specifically, a brand new Albums I Missed video, our second of 2022. February was cram-packed, overflowing with really exciting new music from Bloody Wood, Zealand Ardor, Cult of Luna, Rolo Tomasi, Blood Incantation, and so many more. We got some really fucking fantastic records from Voivod and Venom Prison, perhaps the best music of the year so far. We also took the time to interview members of Voivod and Venom Prison. We did a collab with the Necrosexual, and amidst all of this, I somehow found the time to talk mad fucking shit about Chris Barnes and Korn, because of fucking course I did. 'Tis my shtick at this point. But even though we talked about tons of new music, we didn't talk about all of the new music that came out in February 2022. Realistically, in my defense, it's kind of impossible to do so, seeing as how I'm lucky if I can upload 3 videos a fucking week, but that's not really the point of my little spiel. The point is, there's a lot of fucking music, so today, in this Albums I Missed video, I want to tell you about a bunch of other interesting, noteworthy records that came out in the past couple of weeks that you should maybe or maybe not be on the lookout for. Your fucking call, your fucking prerogative. But before we do that, I want to very quickly remind each and every one of you that I am hosting a live Pokemon Legends Arceus drinking game tonight on the Metal Meltdown. We go live at approximately 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be there or be fucking square. First up, we have Carpe Diem, the 24th studio album from English heavy metal troopers Saxon. Holy shit, 24 albums. That's gotta be a record. I don't have much to say at all about this album. Saxon, very similarly to Overkill and Anvil, have made basically the same album, or at least the same type of album over the course of 30, 40 fucking years. This is not an exception. If you've enjoyed literally anything that Saxon has released in the past in any fucking capacity, I see no reason whatsoever why you wouldn't enjoy this. Me personally, I was bored shitless, but then again, this isn't for me. This is for the longtime Saxon fans. This is for the old fuddy-duddies who just want to listen to 1970s and 80s hard rock and heavy metal and pretend that new music doesn't exist. And more power to you. Go ahead, enjoy your fucking Bud Light and your well-done steaks, and enjoy your brand new Saxon album that sounds like every other Saxon album. Good for you. That's all. Next up, we have Metal 2, a new album from Canadian thrash and speed metal crew Annihilator. It is a re-recording of an album that Annihilator previously released back in 2008, simply titled Metal. And it's fine. I think it's totally fine. I don't really understand the point of this album, seeing as how it is a near replica of the original record, to the point where if you had told me this was simply a remaster, I might have fucking believed you. I mean, sure, I guess it is objectively kind of cool that members of Lamb of God and Arch Enemy and In Flames and Trivium are here, but I mean, they were all also present on the original album, and they're doing exactly what they did on that original album. Except now it's louder, and the production's a little better, and the track list has been rearranged. Yeah, that's it. The only real difference I can notice between Metal 2 and Metal is that Metal featured Dave Padden on vocals and Mike Mangini on drums, whereas Metal 2 features Stu Block on lead vocals and Dave Lombardo on drums. But both of these guys are, as far as I can tell, just playing the original parts as intended. No additional spices or flavors whatsoever. This occupies a territory a lot like last year's Embryonic Anomaly remake from Rings of Saturn for me. It is a very blatant cash grab, a glorified remaster at fucking best, and there is no need for it to exist unless you are thirsty as fuck for anything semi-Annihilator related. Next up, we have Halo, the 14th studio album from Finnish metal chameleons Amorphis. I'm actually pretty disappointed we didn't get to talk about this album in a full album review. C'est la vie, that's just how it is sometimes, but on the bright side, we can talk about it here, and thank God, because it's a seriously great album. These guys have played around with a lot of different styles over the course of the past 30 years or so, but with the last 3 or 4 albums specifically, they found a comfortable sweet spot between progressive metal and folk metal, and I would say that Halo is probably their best album released in this particular era of Amorphis. It's their most grandiose, it's their most dynamic, their most lush and evocative. The production is fucking fantastic. The songwriting is very consistent, tons of great hooks, melodies, string quartets, lots of great orchestration, lots of great guitar solos. The technicality, the musicianship is fucking on point. It's just a really, really, really fucking good album. There's not much more to really be said about it. If you didn't enjoy the last 2 or 3 Amorphis records, I don't think this would win you over either, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Had I gone ahead and reviewed it, I would have given it a very enthusiastic 3.5 out of 5, maybe even a 4 out of 5. It's a really fucking strong record. Definitely highly recommend it. Next up, we have a self-titled album from Pike Vs The Automaton. This is a new project featuring Matt Pike of Sleep and High on Fire fame, and it's interesting. That much is certain. It's kind of sloppy, kind of messy, kind of incohesive, and definitely too noisy for its own good. It almost feels like something a garage band would make after doing an absolute fuck ton of drugs, but it is fun. Like, there are some pretty gnarly, kind of crusty, sludgy thrash bruisers across this record, eerily reminiscent of what I would expect from High on Fire on their last album, Electric Messiah, but with a little bit more of a Venom Motorhead kind of underbelly. You've got tracks like Trapped in a Mid-Cave and Latin American Geological Foundation, which just ooze like classic stoner rock and desert rock vibes. Think Black Sabbath meets Caius meets early Queens of the Stone Age, and you're kind of in the right ballpark. There's also Apollyon, which is just a gnarly piece of Mastodon-style psychedelic sludge. Speaking of Mastodon, Brent Hines himself shows up on the track Lake, which oozes southern charm and grit and hospitality. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's fun and it's different, and honestly, that's probably the most I can ask for at this point. Like, when older metal musicians start doing solo albums, it usually just sounds like a really crappy version of whatever they were doing in their prior band. You know, like the Rob Halford solo albums come to mind, the recent Corpse Grinder album comes to mind, but you know, Matt Pike decided he wasn't going to go down that route. He decided he was going to do something a little crazier, a little weirder, with elements of previous bands like Sleep and High on Fire, but not derivative of them. And I really admire Pike Vs The Automaton for that reason. In fact, I look forward to seeing what else, if anything, this project does in the future. Next up, we have Scar Weaver. This is the 3rd studio album from Once Human. I've heard a lot about these guys over the course of the past couple years or so. Never checked them out until now, and I don't really feel like I missed anything whatsoever. This is really, really lame, really forgettable. I will probably forget about this the moment this video is done. It's basically early to mid-2000s Machine Head, but with way more sterile production and way more predictable songwriting, which I don't think is a huge coincidence, seeing as how Logan Matter, who is a member of Once Human, was also a former member of Machine Head, and if I'm not mistaken, still works closely with them, close enough that Rob Flynn himself does also make an appearance on this album. With that in mind, I would say that Once Human is to Machine Head what Love and Death is to Korn. A totally inoffensive but ultimately painfully bland and forgettable clone, carbon copy. Like that band, but with all the fun and charm and originality sucked completely out of them. Next up, we have DAMNUM, a brand new studio album from Allegaeon, I don't fucking know. It's progressive and technical death metal. It's not too different from anything they've done before. They occupy a territory a lot like Obscura with that in mind. Much like Obscura, the songwriting, the production, the technicality is getting better and better. And much like with what Obscura did on the last album, going into more melodic territory, I do feel like this album also does kind of go into more melodic territory. With 12 songs clocking in at an hour long, I do feel like the album is a bit clunky, a little bit fatty and hefty. But honestly, all things considered, pretty damn fucking good. If you're looking for some progressive and technical death metal, can't really go wrong with this whatsoever. Next up, we have the Nightmare Frontier EP from Abysmal Dawn. Not really a whole lot going on here. There's a re-recording of Black in the Sky. There's 2 covers, one of Candlemass from Bewitch and one of Behind Space from In Flames. And there's one new song called A Nightmare Slain. All of it is pretty good, you know? I don't really have much to say. It all very much falls within the wheelhouse of what we expect from Abysmal Dawn at this point. It's tight, it's technical, it's brutal. It's nice to hear some of the melodic and doomy aspects remaining in the covers of Behind Space and Bewitched respectively, but I mean, it still more or less sounds like Abysmal Dawn. You know, nothing truly wild or crazy or completely left field here. Fuck it, it's fun, that's ultimately what matters. There's tons of gross gutturals and pummeling percussion and guitar pyrotechnics. The production is pretty sharp. Even by the standards of an EP, it doesn't really take that long to sift through. So yeah, fuck it, give it a shot. If you love death metal and you're just looking to have some fun, go nuts. This might do it for you. Next up, we have Portal Tombs, the sophomore studio album from Mass Worship. This is another album I really wanted to talk about. Had we not done the Rollo Tomasi review, we might have talked about this album instead. And had Chris Barnes kept his fucking mouth shut, and had I in turn also kept my mouth shut, to be fair, we definitely would have talked about this instead. But he didn't, and I didn't, so here we are. It's probably for the best, though. The We Need to Talk About Chris Barnes video is one of the most popular on the channel right now. Like, it's close to 16,000 views right now, if I'm not mistaken. Plus, I actually don't have a ton to say about this album other than, holy shit, it is heavy and gnarly and obtuse as fuck. It's very dense, very complex, very jarring. There are a lot of super tight fucking grooves, huge oppressive walls of sound. I'm reminded a little bit of Meshuggah, but filtered through early Portal and maybe At the Gates. Maybe. I don't know. They've got a very weird sound. One thing is for sure, though, it's super fucking heavy, super fucking technical. The musicianship is next level. I really, really enjoyed this album. I look forward to seeing what this band does next. And I will make sure next time around to review an album of theirs in an actual full album review, because holy shit. That is, assuming Chris Barnes knows how to keep his mouth shut. Which he doesn't, but let's just pretend in some universe out there he can. Let's pretend for a brief, beautiful, peaceful moment. Wonderful. Next up, we have Metanoia, I think it's pronounced. I don't actually know. It's a brand new studio album from Persefone, progressive shred metal, tech metal band. I gotta be honest, I didn't really much care for it, but not so much because of anything Persefone does. These guys are all accomplished musicians, it's clear as day. I'm not gonna argue otherwise. I'm more so not digging this just because I'm kind of tech and shred metaled out right now, you know? Like, after Allegaeon and Mass Worship and even other stuff we listened to on the Metal Meltdown this month that we reviewed, like Voivod, Rollo Tomasi, I'm kind of done, you know? It doesn't really help either that this album, for the most part, amounts to a bunch of, like, technical wankery. Fantastic technical wankery. Again, I'm not arguing these guys can't play. I'm arguing that what they're playing, I'm just really not finding interesting right now. Maybe I will have to revisit this album in the future after I've had a bit of a break from like progressive and technical metal and stuff like that after I've had a bit of a palate cleanser, but yeah, for now, I'm just not feeling it. Next up, we have A Loner from Hangman's Chair. I've gotten a lot of requests to talk about this album, actually, and I can see why. This is pretty cool. These guys are playing very thick, dreamy, catchy, kind of sludge alternative metal in the vein of Lantlos and Torch. A lot of thick, burly riffs contrasted with some very melancholic vocals and some poppy choruses. It can be very heavy when it wants to be. It can also be very relaxed and airy and spacey when it wants to be. And it can also be very anthemic and poppy and catchy, infectiously so, when it wants to be. It's all around a very well-written and produced and structured record. This is definitely an album I probably would have given a 4 out of 5 had I done a full-blown album review, and honestly, I might pick it up on vinyl. I'm really, really enjoying this album, and I want to say thank you to those of you who have bugged the crap out of me these past couple of weeks for letting me know about this album. Please continue to bug me about records like this instead of fucking, like, some stupid-ass boomer rock. Please and thank you. This was great. Next up, we have Return to the Void from Shape of Despair, and what a fucking return it is. My god, this record is bleak. My god, this record is fucking depressing. Holy shit. Y'all know me, I'm a pretty open-minded guy, but funeral doom is one of those genres I tend to just stay away from in general. It's just not at all something I'm interested in. But I do make exceptions now and then because, as I said before, I'm a pretty open-minded guy, and I make an exception for a band like Shape of Despair because their sound, as mournful and as dark as it is also so rich and weirdly quite lush. I mean, so many amazing, haunting vocal arrangements. The guitars are so fucking crisp. It's got a little bit of like that Peaceville kind of like Death Doom goth metal aura to it. Like, I'm reminded of My Dying Bride and early Paradise Lost and Anathema at times. And those guttural vocals are monstrous. I feel like I'm being stalked by some kind of Dark Souls-esque demon god warrior king. It is his goal to watch over me and to punish me and to make me feel horrible, and he's doing a brilliant fucking job. Obviously, the album's incredibly, albeit intentionally slow pace, and the generally depressing and sad nature of the record doesn't make this something that I'll probably return to often, but I did weirdly enjoy it nonetheless. Like, I would recommend this to somebody who was looking for a really great Funeral Doom record and wanted to hear something out of Funeral Doom as opposed to just 3 minutes of the same riff followed by 3 minutes of a slightly different riff while some guy goes... Next up, we have Of Mountains and Suns, the debut album from Tar Blossom, an instrumental, or rather mostly instrumental, atmospheric, melodic black metal band. Not much is known about these guys. Some people are apparently theorizing that this could be a black metal supergroup. I don't know for sure. I also don't care. Here's what I do know. This album hits harder than it has the fucking right to. I don't know how exactly these guys made an album this dynamic and epic and powerful with no vocals and with some pretty straightforward black metal songwriting and songcraft, but they fucking did. The production's fantastic. There are tons of little twists and turns that help provide a lot of contrast and color and weight. It helps prevent this record from feeling very samey and repetitive as well, which is good because the songwriting itself sticks pretty closely to what makes black metal what it is, you know, tremolo riffs, blast beats, all that kind of shit. But even that is done so well that it just kind of works. I'm reminded of some of the best works from, like, Enslaved, or perhaps more appropriately, given the production value, a band like Wolves in the Throne Room. Yeah, I really liked this album. I really liked it a lot. I don't remember who specifically recommended this to me, but whoever you are, wherever you are, thanks. This was really cool. Next up, we have Twilight Insurgency from Lunar Blood. They have a particularly gruesome take on blackened death metal that I just find fascinating. It's politically charged, it's really brutal, really in your face, super noisy, there's lots of feedback and lots of really weird, gross vocal antics. Those riffs are fucking dynamite, the drum beats, the percussion, fucking stellar, tight as fucking nails. It's like a jackhammer just repeatedly drilling into your fucking skull. The songwriting itself, not really all that much to write home about. It's blackened death and thrash metal. You know, you've heard this kind of shit before, but goddamn, it is so well done. I love the swampy, gross, murky sound. I love how diabolical and monstrous this album is. I love how bitter and sadistic it is. I also like that it's really short. Like, it does a lot within a 26-minute runtime, which is just awesome. Yeah, it won't win any awards for originality, but goddamn, what it lacks in brains, it more than makes up for in fucking brawn. This is a great record. Definitely check this out if you are just looking for some super brutal, gruesome shit. And finally, we have Fire It Up, the debut album from Canadian heavy metal supergroup Thunderor, featuring members of Skullfist and Annihilator. In theory, I should like this album. I really want to like this album, but honestly, I was just really bored by it. The songwriting is very, very simplistic to the point of being predictable. The synthesizer work on here is just flat out awful, wafer thin, cheesy as fuck. The vocals I don't really think are that great. I don't know who specifically is doing the vocals, but this guy just is not especially confident and doesn't have a ton of range. Some of the riffs are alright, but not to the point where it's like, oh bro, you gotta check this out. If you're looking for like old school heavy metal with modern production value and flair and sizzle, this ain't it. Go listen to Haunt, go listen to Spirit Adrift, go listen to Skullfist, ironically, but not this. This ain't it, chief. And booyah, ladies and gentlemen, those are all the albums I feel I missed in the month of February 2022. If there are any other albums that you feel I should be on the lookout for, please let me know. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know on Instagram at The Metal Meltdown. Let me know on Discord via the Metal YouTube Collective thingy. Let me know on TikTok. I'm on TikTok as well, at The Metal Meltdown again. Just let me know. Send me all your crazy fucking music recommendations. I want to hear it all. I want it inside my fucking brain. Check out this video here. I don't know what it is. Go ahead and check out this one here. I don't know what that is either, but I bet they're both great. Press this button right here to subscribe to The Metal Meltdown, and as always, ladies and gentlemen, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.